Hello everyone, I'm Priyadarshini Mara, faculty at the Department of Buddhist Studies, University of Delhi. Today I'm going to discuss with you module number 26 of Philosophy of Buddhism, paper number 11. This module is titled as Nagarjuna on Two Truths. So when we talk about, let us see, the title of it states that Nagarjuna on two truths. So what are these two truths? First of all, you need to understand that these two truths are divided as the empirical truth and the conventional truth, which is also known as empirical truth, and the other truth is the ultimate truth. So when we talk about the empirical truth, we're stating it to be Samriti Satya, which is mere appearance of truth. And when we're talking about the ultimate truth, it is the Paramarth Sat. So the two truths doctrine originated in the Madhyamik doctrine of Nagarjuna. But Nagarjuna drew this doctrine from the words of historical Buddha as recorded in Pali Tripitak. So when we look at Pali Tripitak, it is believed that when Nagarjuna talks about the theory of two truths, it was picked up from the Pali Tripitak, and in the Kachayan Goth Sut of Samyukta Nikaya 12.15, the Buddha said, by and large, Kachayan, this world is supported by a polarity, that of existence and non-existence. But when one sees the origination of the world as it actually is, with right discernment, non-existence with reference to the world does not occur to one. When one sees the cessation of the world as it actually is, with right discernment, existence with reference to the world does not occur to one. So let me repeat this again for you. This particular passage is picked up from Kachayan Goth Sut, and this Kachayan Goth Sut belongs to Samyukta Nikaya 12.15, and it is believed according to the Pali Tripitak that Nagarjuna picked up his doctrine of two truths from this particular sut. So it is said that the Buddha said, by and large, Kachayan, this world is supported by a polarity, that of existence and non-existence. But when one sees the origination of the world as it actually is, with right discernment, non-existence with reference to the world does not occur to one. When one sees the cessation of the world as it actually is, with right discernment, existence with reference to the world does not occur to one. So this is the whole idea or the doctrine or the teachings where it is said that the existence and non-existence are the two polarities that make up or that constitute a world. And when a person sees this origination of or the evolution of the world as it actually is, with right discernment, non-existence does not occur to one. So when you see it with right discernment, when your mindset is in that right way, then non-existence does not, with reference to the world, does not occur to one. So it is said that the Buddha also taught that all phenomena manifest because of conditions created by other phenomena. This is known as dependent origination. So when we look at the phenomena, we see that it manifests because of the conditions created by other phenomena. So when we're talking about the phenomenal existence, everything that is present in the phenomenal existence is the resultant of the other factors that are again conditioned and dependent on certain other factors. So it is like this chain of existence where I am the effect of a certain cause. Now, if you see the causal relationship, you'll try to understand it in this way, that I am supposedly the effect of my parents, who are here the cause, and I am the effect. Now, tomorrow or in the future, this same effect, which is me, becomes the cause for another effect, which will be the generations to come. So, this cause and effect theory plays a major role in understanding the phenomena as well as the ultimate. When we talk about the cause and effect, we see that every cause has an effect, and that very effect becomes the cause for some other effect to come in future. So it goes on moving in a chain, and this cyclic order cannot be destroyed, and this leads to the suffering of humanity. Only once you realize that this cyclic effect of pratitya samutpad or dependent arising is the main reason to let you or to keep you in the cycle of birth and rebirth, and eventually takes you to suffering. It is this realization that takes you above all the suffering. But what are the nature of these conditioned phenomena? Nagarjuna's philosophy of the middle way or Madhyamik school of Buddhism shows how the two truths are different, and yet despite this difference are critically the same. So when we talk about these two truths, which is the conventional truth and the ultimate truth, we see that here we're talking about two different things. One is conventional and the other one is ultimate. But do you really think that the two are different? See, they are different in certain categories, but they are related to a greater extent. There are two kinds of realities. One is what we call conventional reality or samvriti sat, and the other is the ultimate reality or the parmarth sat. Conventional realities are the reference points of ordinary conceptual thought, which is known as panyati, and conventional modes of expression, which is known as vohar. So when you look at these conventional realities, you see that they are the reference point of ordinary conceptual thought, which is known as panyati, and conventional mode of expressions, which is known as vohar. They include such entities as living beings, persons, men, women, animals, trees, plants, mountains, and so on. All those things existing, whether they're living beings or non-living beings, but whatever constitute this phenomenal existence, that all comes under conventional reality. One understands and gives name to these according to their shape, form, color, etc. So when we talk about the existence in the conventional reality, things are dependent, as we've talked earlier also, things are dependent on many other factors for their existence. So there's no one particular identity as such. But suppose when we say that there's no particular identity of anything, then how do we define things? How do we talk about those things? So for this particular purpose, to be able to comprehend, to communicate in verbally in a better understanding manner, we use or we give names to those particular things. For now, supposedly there's a table. Now table is a combination of 4 legs, either made of iron or wood or any material for that matter, and the top is used for writing, and it is probably, let's take wooden table. So it is made up of wood. Now, once you remove 4 legs of that table, will it still remain a table? No, it won't remain a table. So table is a conglomeration or an amalgamation of many other factors that makes it a table. And now, tomorrow, if I show you a piece of wood lying and I tell you that that is your table, would you agree with me? No, you wouldn't agree with me, because there's a certain structure and formation which is referred to as table. Nothing other than that. The chair that I'm sitting on cannot be called a table, because in our understanding of a table, it is of a certain form, certain structure, and it is required for a certain purpose. So, just for us to be able to verbally communicate in this phenomenal existence, that we have given names and definitions to these objects that surround us, so that it becomes easy for us to communicate. Conventional truth involves our everyday experience and understanding of the way the phenomenal world appears and functions. If our senses and cognition are in working order, we recognize that fire burns, that dark clouds foreshadow rain, and that birds and not elephants can fly. So, we see that if our senses and cognition are working in order, we recognize that fire burns. So, the same way that I told you about the table is required, has a certain purpose. So, the same way fire burns, the dark clouds foreshadow rain, and elephants cannot fly. It's only the birds that can fly. So, this understanding is necessary, and it is mere understanding of things that surround us. Conventional truth is our agreed upon identification of things and how they work, and this understanding directs our worldly activities. So see, when we talk about conventional truth, when we're saying that everything that is existing is a mere illusion or is dependent on many other factors for its existence and has no identity as such. So that ways we would not be talking about anything, because here when we're pointing out to something, that thing is also dependent on certain other conditions. But here what we're trying to say is that in order to make our worldly activities more effective and more direct and more cognizable, we use conventional truth as identification of things, how they work. So depending on their functions and their attributes and their characteristics, we give these identifications, and this is how we are able to commute or to do our activities in the phenomenal world. Conventional truth includes what is called valid cognition, because it is able to distinguish conventional truth from conventional falsehood, an important difference. Now see, what I'm trying to say here is that conventional truth includes what is called valid cognition, because it is able to distinguish conventional truth from conventional falsehood, which here is an important difference. Let me give you an example. There are consequences in distinguishing a snake from a rope, and that sense of being right matters. So here, when we talk about cognition or a valid cognition which distinguishes conventional truth from conventional falsehood, what I'm trying to state is that when you look at a snake and you mistake it to be a rope, or when you look at a rope and mistake it to be a snake, so here only one case or condition can be right. Either it has to be a snake or it has to be a rope. So in order for that valid cognition that the thing that is lying in front of me is a rope with affirmation and with validity, or is a snake with affirmation and with validity. So in order to be able to cognize that validly, one needs to understand that this conventional truth and it is different from conventional falsehood. If there was no reliability to our everyday assessments, our activity would be senseless. There is a coherence so that conventional truth cannot be constructed randomly or simply as we choose. So, what is this coherence? This coherence is our objective application of identity to the things that surround us. However, our conventional reality is also deceptive. Objects, both coarse as in a rock and subtle as in thought, appear as distinct entities when they are not. Phenomena are mistakenly perceived and conceptualized as self-established, each with their own core nature that makes them what they are. In Buddhism, this deception is called inherent existence and is identified as the root error responsible for suffering. When we talk about conventional reality, we say that it is deceptive, and the objects, both coarse as in a rock and subtle as in thought, appear as distinct entities when they are not. So here what we're trying to say, that sometimes there are certain things which might be coarse and which we mistake to be subtle, and the subtle things we mistake them to be coarse. So that is the deceptiveness of conventional reality. Phenomena are mistakenly perceived and conceptualized as self-established, each with their own core nature that makes them what they are. So when we talk about the phenomenal existence, it is not subjective at all. There might be certain views and ideologies which we can term to be subjective, but talking about the phenomenal existence as a whole is all objective. There are things that we have named as a certain thing, and that is the reason we can sustain our livelihood and our actions in this phenomenal existence. Now, if you see, then when we talk about the world around us, it has different languages, it has different understanding, different cultures, different forms, different writing forms, different living forms. So if I know only English, and if I go to a Spanish-speaking nation, I will be having difficulties because the Spanish-speaking nation has certain objective language or objective actions that they perform together, and I cannot lay my own subjective rules, or I cannot lay my own subjective knowledge. So it is important to have this objective understanding in order to be able to perform our actions in the phenomenal world. So this is what is conventional reality. Through examination and analysis, the middle way school asserts that no independent phenomena exists whatsoever. While objects appear to exist as separate things, this sensory cognitive appearance is illusory. Phenomena are neither self-created nor self-enduring, but arise in dependence upon conditions without a nature or essence of their own. The example of fire is classic in illustrating what it means to depend upon conditions, one of the key types of dependencies in emptiness teachings. So when we're talking about the samriti or the conventional reality, we're saying that it is not a reality. It is mere emptiness. Emptiness because the things that are present in it are dependent on other factors for their existence, and they don't have any essence or identity of their own, and that makes those things empty. And if there are empty things inside a phenomenon, so suppose phenomena is a pot and there are empty things inside that pot, So the entire pot would be termed empty. And that is the reason phenomena is termed empty. It is very important to understand that the two truths do not posit two separate realities, the world and the other ultimate reality. Rather, this concept deals with how we perceive reality and the things in it. The first kind of truth that we call relative, conventional, mundane, worldly, veiled, and so on is valid for the practical affair of daily life. However, our perception of the everyday world is often based on the misperception that things have an existence or self-nature independent from other things. From the view of the ultimate truth, all things are produced by causes and conditions and are thereby interdependent and without self-nature. So in this way, they are said to be impermanent and unreal. Ultimate realities, however, exist by reason of their own intrinsic nature, which is known as Swabhav. So when we're talking about the ultimate reality, we say stating that it exists by reason of its own intrinsic nature, which is Swabhav. So conventional truth is truth about phenomena that is inferred through cognition. When conventional truth asserts the emptiness and of phenomena, it does so conceptually and linguistically through the abstract construction and analysis of conceptual objects. However, ultimate truth, or what we call Paramarth Sat, is different in this regard. It is the direct, non-conceptual perception of the emptiness of phenomena. So see, when we're talking about the ultimate truth or Paramarth Sat, we're saying that it is the direct, non-conceptual perception of the emptiness of phenomena. It is like realizing that something you were looking for is not there, and right then directly perceiving the absence of the object. So when you're looking at something or when you're trying to find out something, it is not there, directly perceiving the absence of the object. The ultimate truth of emptiness is not mediated by thought at the time of apprehension. It is not a conceptual realization. There is no reification involved, no subject-object duality present. An absence is objectless, non-deceptive, free from conceptual construction. When the inherent existence of an object or property is looked for using ultimate analysis, as in the example of fire, it cannot be found. So when we're talking about this inherent existence of an object or a property that is looked for using ultimate analysis, it cannot be found. The same way, a fire cannot be stored up in a particular place, but it comes into existence the moment there are certain steps required to bring it into existence. A shift then occurs and the mediator experiences a vacuum, directly perceiving the absence. With practice, as one continues to negate the inherent existence of all kinds of objects as well as processes such as motion and cause and effect, emptiness being global and ultimate truth that, as implied by its name, applies to everything. The illusion of inherent existence is dispelled. When one is no longer ruled by the attraction and aversion that accompanies the reification of phenomena, equanimity is finally possible. From the ultimate standpoint, There are no phenomena, or for that matter, standpoints. Being dependently arisen, phenomena are ultimately undefinable, which includes finding that they are empty. The conventional designation of objects requires conceptual boundaries in which to single things out, and ultimately there are no boundaries, no independent things to designate. Objects are a conventional construct. Only the conventional can name things as empty conceptual abstractions. Ultimate truth for Nagarjuna is the truth of an enlightened clarity, which does not mistake the conventional for something essential. This is where emptiness comes in, as Nagarjuna teaches that all things are empty, and all understanding of this emptiness leads to a greater truth of the way things really are. Of course, fundamentally, there is no real difference between the two realities, as this, a truth of the highest meaning, posits the individual existence cannot be grounded outside the context of everyday experience, thereby linking the two realities into one. In other words, a higher truth is based only on conventional reality, not on metaphysics. So when we talk about the ultimate reality or the higher truth, we say that it is based on the conventional reality and not on any sort of metaphysics. Basing higher truth on conventional reality is like conventional reality is more of an understanding that everything around us is empty, and so we should look for something that is beyond us and that is not empty. And this is how we reach the higher truth. The empirical reality is endowed with impermanency and conditionedness, which lead to the dependent nature of each and every form of phenomenal existence. This nature of empirical reality is cognized by Swabhav Shunya. What is Swabhav Shunya? It is the absence of essence, or what is called own being. And it is also cognized by Pratiti Samutpat, which is dependent origination. When we take this empirical reality to be permanent, continuous, and independent, it is then that we fall into the maze of illusion. This false nature of empirical existence, which hides its true nature, is mere mental construction and entices one to cling on to, which in turn leads to suffering. There are only two realities: the form under which the empirical reality appears to us, which is illusion, concealment of reality, and the true nature of the empirical reality, which is contingency or true reality. Besides these two realities, there is nothing else. All the manifestations, elements, categories, etc. of the empirical reality, when they are analyzed, must be denied as really existing. The rope does not exist as such. It is only a conglomeration of threads. The threads do not exist as such. They are only a conglomeration of filaments, and so on. So when you look at this particular example, it is quite an interesting example. When you talk about rope, what is a rope? Rope is a conglomeration of threads. And what is a thread? Thread is further conglomeration of filaments. And this goes on and on. So there are these factors that combine together to make up a thing, and a thing cannot exist on its own. So this non-existence of any individual essence is what we term shunyata or emptiness. Liberation can be obtained only through the complete and lasting cessation of all mental activity, which is to be obtained to great personal effort. Of course, death does not signify the cessation of mental activity, since that death is followed by a new birth for the man who has not liberated himself. Therefore, the total cessation of this cycle of birth and rebirth is cessation of all defilements and attainment of ultimate liberation, which is nirvana. So, when we talk about the two truths here according to Nagarjuna are Samriti Satya and Paramarth Satya. Samriti Satya points out to the empirical reality, which is merely a concealment of reality. And the second is the ultimate, which is actually real. And in order to attain the ultimate, one needs to understand the samriti or conventional truth. It is very important that the conventional understanding leads to the ultimate understanding or the ultimate achievement. And this is the theory of two truths that is given by Nagarjuna. And it is called the theory of two truths, Samriti and Paramarth. Thank you.